What's up guys, Shane here from Fugatech 3D Printing, and today I'm going to give you my review of the Creality Ender 7. Welcome back guys. So it's been a while since I've gotten this machine and I think I'm finally ready to give you my final thoughts on it. But before we get into that, let's get into the specs. Now the build volume is 250 by 250 by 300 millimeters. So a mid-range sized printer. It comes with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. They say this can do up to 250 millimeters a second, which is pretty fast. You gotta figure most Vorons kind of go that speed, and this is in a Core XY configuration. I was excited for this because this is the first off-the-shelf Core XY I've ever really seen, especially in person. I know there's a few out there, but not to the mass market that Creality can reach because it's Creality. They make more printers than anybody in the world, really. And aside from that, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty standard printer. There's nothing really unique about it. It has the dual 40-10 fans on the side of the hot end, and it does have their new extruder, which is kind of a dual drive type extruder, so it's supported on both sides, kind of like how Bondtech is, but this is Creality's spin on it in a Bowden style printer. Aside from that, I mean everything, it's a big old metal frame. They're using this 40-40 upright. It's got a this big steel plate that goes around the entire top. So the top was one piece, the bottom's one piece, and then it had these three uprights. This back is actually a 40-60, or is this 40-80? 40-80 piece of aluminum extrusion in the back here. The build was pretty easy. You guys saw me do this on a live stream. Didn't really take all that long. And for what I can think, there's nothing really that memorable about it. It worked. It runs off this great big ribbon cable that runs along the back that connects the brain of the operation, which is down here in the bottom, up to the hot end to kind of get all of those connections up there. Being that this is an $800 printer, there is no auto bed leveling, which is one of the biggest letdowns of this machine. Well, not one of them, but it is a big letdown of this machine because I figure at this price point there should be one. I'm building lots of printers for less than $800 and I'm able to easily fit on a $1.50 probe module for, again, $1.50. It's pretty cheap. The build plate is their take on the Anycubic Ultra Base is where this kind of is, but it's a lot more of a rougher surface. It honestly, it gives me that like chalkboard feeling when I touch it. I really don't. Like, I already have goosebumps right now. I hate the feel of the bed and nothing sticks to it. Joel actually recently just did a video on his Ender 7s. He actually has two of them. One that he actually hacked off the front, which obviously does nothing against the machine. It's just so he could actually see when you're looking at it, because if you're looking at it from the front here, this blocks the first couple layers. You can see it, you know, if you get low enough, but if you've got a print farm, you've got a bunch of these on the rack, yeah, you're not going to see it. It kind of has to be at a tabletop level for you to be able to duck down and really see that first layer go down. But yeah, the build plate is, so it does self-release once it does print. That's saying if your print actually stuck to it, but we'll get to that here in a minute. But spec-wise, it's like these two connections. So it's this big connection here for the heated bed, which is actually fantastic. It's well supported. It's a single barrel plug type connection. And then you've got the ribbon cable for the actual hot end and the motors and all that at the top of the machine, linking it to the bottom. So overall, connectivity, great, easy to put together. I got no issues with that there. The big issues with this machine is the actual like operation of it. So number one, the build plate is just, I touched it again, man, I like put lotion on or something, it kills me. The build plate doesn't really hold on to anything. You can see mine actually still has a glue stick on it because I have lots of prints here that I've done over the past, 5 months with this machine, and not very many were successful. Somewhere, I do have some good stories about this, but if I was using this in a production environment, or if I wanted just to have a single printer, this definitely would not be it, just because it doesn't work all that consistently. So poor bed adhesion, okay, that's number one. Number two, it is god-awful loud. I mean, maybe it can do that 250 millimeters a second. I did not put it to that because I couldn't stand the sound. It is so noisy. It is the loudest machine of the 20 printers that I have here on my wall, by far the loudest machine. I have to close the door when I run it. Every other machine here is nearly silent because I'm using silent steppers or just more newer drivers. This is still using, from what I can tell, ancient A4988 drivers that were great 6 years ago, but in 2021, 2022, no. I mean, there's no reason to still be using those. It is an 8-bit board from what I was told. I have not dug into it because I don't really care. And it is using their own flavor of Marlin. Be that what it may there. The touchscreen actually is good. It's pretty responsive. I didn't have any issues with that at all. It's very easy to use. The load and unload works just fine. So functionality wise, most of it is there. There's definitely some key points here that just aren't great. And I keep coming back to the bed, and that's really like the crux of this, is that between the bed and the lack of bed leveling, like automatic bed leveling, it takes a minute to get this thing honed in. Now, granted, mine usually sit on these, you know, I either had it on my table or I have it on my racks, which are all zip tied together. They don't go anywhere. This giant heavy table here is not going anywhere. So I didn't really have any issues of re-leveling it once it was done, but there were a few times I had to adjust a couple of the points on there just to make sure those were dialed in perfectly to get that first layer to try and stick. But in the end, it really didn't matter because nothing stuck to this bed. Didn't matter how close I was or how far I was. It just is a very, very poor design. Maybe if I was to care more, throw on a flex bed sheet or something like that, but it just, no, it just wasn't end up worth it because again, it's so loud to use this thing. Even though it's on linear rails, it's still incredibly loud. The fans are loud as well, and I'll show you guys the print quality here in a moment. So another one of the huge downfalls of this machine is on its like hardware slash software side, and that is this machine cannot print a vase. It's this one right here that I want you to look at. You can see all of the stutters that this machine does when I try to print vase mode. I tried using Prusa Slicer first because that's my slicer of choice. I tried using Cura. I tried using Creality's Cura. Not a single one of them could print in vase mode. And I asked in a bunch of different forums and on Discord servers, my own Discord server, and it basically drilled down to is that there's too many commands when doing vase mode for the printer to understand. For the firmware and the hardware, the brain, the board to understand, it just cannot understand doing vase mode commands. And I wasn't going that fast. I had gone all the way down to I think 15 millimeters per second. I'd gone all the way up to 150 millimeters per second. Didn't really matter. It can't do it. So no matter how many times I tried, this is a basic function of any slicer and it's a basic function of any printer. If it cannot print a vase, is it really a 3D printer? So on to failed prints, I got this shortly before Halloween of 21. So I was like, okay, I will do some Halloween prints. So I tried here several different times. The first time I had tried printing one of those crazy awesome like ghosts, and it started going down fine, and then all of a sudden it just stopped working. And I put a big brim on this as well. I think there's just 10 layers. So there's a nice big brim on it. It's connected between because the model itself is usually pretty good. I've never had issues printing this on any other printer, or print surface I should say, but it did not work on this one. So I thought I got it figured out. I went to even put glue stick down, and it still went ahead and failed over an overnight print. So this was a ton of filament just gone and wasted, you know, and I hate wasting filament. When I'm trying to do a review video, it just sets it back, makes it hard to deal with. So that didn't work out well. Then I tried making, I have made here some custom mounts for an outdoor space we have. I wanted to make these little like drink shelves. So I went to Fusion 360, modeled these up real quick, didn't really take too long. And I was like, okay, I will print this because it's a pretty big print. It takes up most of the print bed. This is about 230 mil, 220 mil wide. So it's a pretty big build space. Can't print on any of my Prusa MK52 beds, which is on most of all my, actually all my custom printers run the Prusa bed. This just doesn't fit on there. So I figured I would throw this on there with some nice brown, and it peeled up and it just got ugly working out. I was like, you know what, that's not gonna work. The front, you can see the deformations in it where it had lifted. So that did not work at all. Ended up throwing these on Ultra Magnus, my custom A8. This is an ANET A8 custom build. that worked just fine printing those out, so I had to give up on that. I did get that Ghost to finally work on here once with a totally different filament, and then I had just put down tons and tons of glue to finally hold this guy on there. I wanted it in this white, but hey, we got one in blue that worked. Maybe I'll spray paint this white or something, but this is out of a Fugatech filament. I don't remember what the white was. It might have been the one that came with the printer. I don't remember anymore, but I did finally get that. A little bit stringy, and the surface finish is not fantastic, but maybe it was just the filament at the time, not sure, but either way, didn't end up being a great print. I did get a smaller print to actually work on here with, again, tons and tons of glue stick. I got the spooky tree to work mostly. Again, a little bit of string. This is also in a Fugatech brown, but this one, again, you can see the layer imperfections of it. These were all doing around 60 to 80 millimeters a second. Didn't go too fast on any of the settings here, but it just didn't quite pop. For an $800 machine, I kind of expected much better results. I tried doing one of the telescopic prints. So this is the samurai sword that I really, really wanted to have one. I was able to get this to stick with just a small amount of glue stick, but all the layers are fused together at the seam. Now this was using Cura with the Ender 7 settings. So this is not my settings, this is not Precise. This was with all these prints were with Cura, which just broke my heart, but it's how I got it to work to print anything. Yeah, you can actually see the retractions in each of these layers where it just gums up the entire thing. So the settings in their own slicer, in the Creality version of Cura, the settings suck. I mean, I can't say it any other way. How can you ship a product with your own slicer that doesn't have good settings? I don't get it. Either way, totally wasted print on all of that. Their stock print of the Buddha came out just fine, and their stock print of the bunny came out fine. None of it was groundbreaking or like, oh my god, look at the quality of that, it's amazing. This was their filament with their sliced print, all of their settings, and it just didn't knock me out of the park. Which usually those prints should be the best you ever get because it's their machine with their settings on their files. There should be no difference there. And then I did do, of course, my obligatory coin, and I did a Benchy. Again, not out of this world, but pretty good for what these were. I had a lot of issues with other ones, but again, it was very hit and miss on what I got to work and what I didn't get to work. And finally, I did try a very, not really advanced print, but just lots of colors. This is mostly all Fugatech filament, and this is one of those like Halloween shadow boxes. So there is actually five individual layers that you glue in, and then 6 would be the actual tombstone and the back layer. 7 would be the white insert you do for the moon, and then a little bit of rub and buff here on the Halloween on the bottom, just to kind of make that pop out a little bit, little gold rub and buff that I had. But overall, this didn't take too terribly long. I think each of these prints was about 2 hours or so. Again, you can see this quality on them is not fantastic. You can really see that surface on it. Again, with their slicer, their settings and everything like that, it just didn't really blow me out of the water. And again, going off of Joel's recent video, so Joel's 3D Printing Nerd, for those who don't know that, which you probably should. If you know the huge channel, you might know my small channel. But either way, he had tons of issues and inconsistencies with both of his machines, both the one that he edited, the one that he had cut and the one that he didn't cut. So, and he actually had to pull them out of circulation because they were so inconsistent and he was getting such bad prints off of them. And if he's not getting that to work, someone with a print farm has a lot to do. I'm having to struggle with this. I just don't see where in the world this machine makes sense to someone. You'd have to totally rehaul it. I'm not going to do a Two Trees Sapphire Pro on this thing. Like, I'm not going to redo it. I'm going to give it to someone for parts. They can part it out and make it work for them, or just take all the motors at least and make that worthwhile. But yeah, if you are looking at a Core XY, if you think they're cool, don't get the Ender 7. Again, it's just the fact that it doesn't have basic functionality to it makes it really hard to recommend to someone at this price point. $800 US is pretty insane, or $799, $699. Yeah, I think it's 800 or 700. Regardless of what it is, it makes it really hard to recommend this printer to anyone because You can get so much more machines for so much cheaper. You can build a hypercube cheaper with the same build volume. You can build a hypercube evolution, or the Heavart is what they're also calling it. Four ones are more expensive, but again, there are machines out there that you can DIY this type of build space in a Core XY configuration and still get better results with it. Just it's a lot more work. But as an off-the-shelf product, meh, I wouldn't go that route. Anyways, I've rambled on long enough for this, but either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope this gave you some insight on this machine. If you own one and you've actually had better results than me, please let me know down in the comments. Or if you own one and you've had the same results, love to hear from you as well. You know, again, I think this is one of the few, I mean, Creality, I give them a lot of crap about, you know, having the Ender 3 and all of that and all the copycats and everything like that. This was their space to be unique. 100%, this is on them. You know, just like the belt printer has its issues, the Ender 7 has its issues, and that really makes it kind of like a non-sellable type product. But anyways, thank you guys for joining in. Hope you enjoyed the video. Check out the links down below. I will be back again hopefully soon with some more projects. So until then, happy printing. I'll see y'all next time.